Welcome to the Above and Beyond Affiliate Marketing Podcast, where faith, mindset, and strategy come together to help entrepreneurs, affiliate marketers, and e-commerce builders create something meaningful. I am your host, Jason Reiland.
And I'm Sophia. Here, we explore the ideas, principles, and conversations that help you think bigger, build smarter, and grow beyond what you thought was possible.
Before we get into today's episode in this Hidden Power series, we've been really breaking down the principles from Thomas Troward's and his teachings on how the mind, faith, and spiritual law actually shape our lives. And today, we're going even deeper into one of the most important ideas he talks about. How the same power that creates freedom can also create limitation, depending on how it's used. So, what if the thing holding you back is actually the same thing that could set you free? The truth is, it's not a different power. It's the same power, just used the wrong way. And this is what Troward refers to as inversion. The idea that the same power applied in reverse reduces the opposite result. See, there's a law most people don't understand. If you take something and run it backwards, you don't get the same result. You get the opposite result. Think about it like this. A machine can turn movement into electricity, but if you flip it, electricity turns into movement. Same machine, same power, different direction. Or I'll take it even simpler. If 10 divided by 2 equals 5, then 10 divided by 5 equals 2. Same numbers, different order, different result. Truth is, your life works that very same way. And so does your business. The same mind, your same beliefs, that same energy, the same creative ability God has given you can either build your freedom or build your trap. It can build discipline or it can build excuses. It can definitely build consistency, as also it can build chaos. It can build a business that compounds over time, or build a cycle of starting and stopping. That's where stewardship comes in, because stewardship means taking responsibility for what God has already placed in your hands. And one of the biggest things He's placed in your hands is your mind. The truth is, most entrepreneurs are not waiting for one more opportunity. They're waiting on a breakthrough that starts with the right direction, because the power is already there. But the question is, are you applying it in a direction that builds life, order, discipline, and growth? Or are you applying it in a direction that keeps you stuck in fear, doubt, and inconsistency? It all depends on the direction you're applying it.
So if it's not about getting new power, but using the same power in a different direction, then how do I know if I'm using it the wrong way right now?
Well, Sophia, that's the real question. You look at your results. The truth is, your results don't lie. So if you feel stuck, if you keep starting and stopping, if you're building and nothing is growing, if you keep switching offers, switching categories, changing direction every other week, it's not because you don't have what it takes. It's because something inside you is running in reverse. You're using the same mind that could build success, but it's being applied through doubt, fear, impatience, inconsistency. So instead of creating progress, it's creating resistance. Instead of stewarding your thoughts with discipline, you're letting your emotions run the show. And that will always spill over into your business, Because the truth is, your business will eventually reflect the quality of your thinking. And if your thinking is unstable, I'll guarantee your execution is unstable. And if your thinking is fearful, I'll guarantee your decisions will be fearful. And if your thinking is disciplined, I'll guarantee your business starts being disciplined. And once you see that, you stop chasing something new and you start correcting the power of what you already have. Now, we're going to get into this other core principle. And once you see this, we're going to go even deeper, because the same power that can give you this freedom and success can also be the same thing that gets you stuck and trapped. And the truth is, it all comes down to one law. As a man thinks, so is he. This is one of the core principles Troward builds on. That thought isn't just passive, it's causative. And that's not just a nice quote. That's the operating system of your life. That's the operating system of your business. That's the operating system of stewardship. So what you consistently think becomes how you see yourself. And how you see yourself becomes exactly how you act. And how you act creates your results. And I'll even go deeper than that. Everything you experience on the outside first gets processed on the inside. Your eyes don't give meaning, your mind does. Your circumstances don't control you, your interpretation does. And that matters in business, because two entrepreneurs can look at the same opportunity. One sees possibility, the other sees risk. One sees something to build, the other sees something to fear. One leans in with stewardship, patience, and faith, and the other one pulls back with doubt, panic, and inconsistency. It's the same market, it's the same world, it's the same tools, different interpretation will lead you to different results.
So it's not really about what's happening out there. It's about the lens you're looking through. Two people can see the exact same thing and walk away with completely different outcomes just based on what they believe about it.
The truth is, if your thinking is off, your whole life will feel off. And if your thinking is off, your business will feel harder than it really needs to be. Not because the market is broken, but because your internal lens is. That's why faith matters. Because faith isn't just church language, everybody. Faith is the lens that really lets you see the possibility when circumstances don't yet prove it. And that matters for builders, because if you don't know how to think in alignment, you constantly sabotage what God is trying to grow through you.
So if everything starts inside and my thoughts are shaping my reality, then am I actually creating my results, even when I think I'm just reacting to life?
Yeah, and that's where it gets real, because most people think they're reacting to life. But the truth is, they're reacting to their own thinking. They're not responding of what's actually happening. They're responding to what they believe is happening. And those beliefs were built over time through fear, through failure, through doubt, through other disappointments and other past experiences. So what happens? They see an opportunity, but they think, this probably won't work. They think of something, but think, well, I already failed at this before. Or maybe this is you. They get close to a breakthrough, but think, it's too good to be true. They look at a business problem, and instead of seeing it as something to solve, they see it as proof that they're not capable. And you do that without realizing it. They're using their own mind to shut down their own progress. That's why stewardship of your mind matters so much. Because if you don't manage your thoughts will manage your life. And if you don't manage your thoughts as a builder, your business will become a mirror of ungoverned thinking. And this is the cycle. This is where the cycle starts to show up. Because once your thinking is off, everything else begins to follow. You think in fear, so you hesitate. You hesitate, so you delay in action. You delay in action, so you lose momentum. You lose momentum, so you feel stuck. And then what happens? That feeling of being stuck feeds right back into your thinking. Now you're thinking, see, nothing's working. And just like that, the cycle continues. Thought, you write this down. Thought, action, result, reinforced thought, over and over again. And the longer that cycle runs, the more real it feels, the more permanent it feels, the more it starts to define you.
That's heavy, because it feels so real when you're in it, like it's just who you are. But you're saying it's not actually who someone is, it's just a pattern that's been running on repeat.
But here's the truth. That cycle is not permanent. It's practice. It's learned. It's reinforced. And nothing that is learned can be unlearned. Anything that is practiced can be redirected. And that's where the real freedom begins. Not when your circumstances change, but when your thinking changes direction.
So the first step isn't even doing something different. It's seeing what you've been doing, like really slowing down enough to recognize the loop you've been stuck in.
That's a great question, exactly. That's not meant to discourage you, everybody. It's meant to empower you. Because if you're participating in it, you can also step out of it. You're not trapped. You're just patterned. And patterns can be broken. But only when you become aware of them. Only when you take responsibility for them. And only when you decide to change direction. And that's where most people get stuck. Not because they can't change, but because they never slow down enough to see what they're repeating. And that's breaking down responsibility. That's where it comes in. Because responsibility is not to blame. Responsibility is ownership. It's the willingness to say, this might not be where I want to be, but I have a role of why I'm here. And that's a powerful place to stand, because the moment you take this ownership, you gain the ability to change direction. But if everything is someone else's fault all the time, if everything's an algorithm, or it's the market, or it's timing, or it's other people, then you'll stay stuck. Because you've been given away, and you've been given away your ability to change. The truth is, responsibility is the doorway to freedom. Not because it feels good, but because it puts you back in position. It puts you back in control of your thinking. It puts you back in control of your actions and control of your direction. And that's what stewardship is all about. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that what you've been given, your mind, your time, your opportunity, this is something that you're responsible for. And when you begin to treat it that way, everything starts to shift.
So responsibility isn't this heavy burden people make it out to be. It's actually the thing that gives you your power back. Because once you own it, you can actually change it.
Exactly. Because once you realize that your life isn't random, and your business isn't random, and your results aren't random, you stop waiting and you start building. You start thinking with intention. You start acting with purpose. You start acting and showing up differently. Not because everything is perfect, but because you decide to take ownership of your direction. And now this is where the shift begins. Okay? Because once you become aware of this cycle, you start taking responsibility for your thinking. Now you have a choice. You can keep running the same pattern, or you can interrupt it. You can pause and choose a different direction. And this is where most people think they need some external new strategy, a new course, a new tool. But the truth is, the shift starts internally. It starts with how you think, it starts with what you believe, and it definitely starts where what you choose to focus on. Because at the moment you change your thinking and you change your direction. And when you change your direction, you change your results over time. And this doesn't happen instantly, everybody, but you have to be consistent. And consistency is what builds anything meaningful.
But I think that's where people get tripped up, right? Because they know they need to change, but they're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting for that moment where it finally clicks and everything feels easy.
Now, we're going to rewire our direction, okay? Because once you understand this shift, it starts internally. So now the next question becomes, how do you actually change direction? Because it's one thing to see the pattern, it's another thing to break it, right? And this is where the discipline comes in. It's not discipline as punishment, it's discipline as alignment. Because the truth is, you don't change your life by making one big decision. You change your life by making small, consistent decisions in the right direction over and over and over again. Even when it doesn't feel natural yet, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when your old thinking is still trying to pull you back. Because I'm going to tell you, here's what most people don't realize. Your old patterns don't disappear overnight. Surprise! They weaken over time. And they weaken through repetition of something new. So if your pattern has been inconsistency this whole time, and you don't fix it, and that you, by waiting, you feel motivated for some reason, but you fix it by showing up consistently, especially when you don't feel like it. If your pattern has been doubt, you don't fix it by hoping confidence shows up. You fix it by choosing thoughts that align with truth and acting from them anyway. If your pattern has been fear, I know you guys out there, you don't eliminate fear first. You move forward in spite of it. And over time, the direction you're moving becomes stronger than the pattern you came from. And that's how change actually happens. It's not instantly, but it's intentionally.
So it's not about feeling ready. It's about moving anyway and trusting that the new direction gets stronger every time you choose it, even when the old one is still pulling at you.
Exactly. Because if you want to feel ready, you'll stay where you are. The truth is, readiness is built through action. Confidence is built through repetition. And growth is built through consistent movement in the right direction. Not perfect movement, but intentional movement. And this is kind of the breaking pattern, right? This is where people start to break free. Because once you begin to moving in a new direction, something shifts. You're no longer reacting to things. You're choosing. You're no longer drifting. You're directing. And that is completely different posture than you once had. Because now you're just not letting life happen to you. You're actively participating in what your life becomes. And this is where faith and action come together. Because faith without action stays internal. And action without alignment stays inconsistent. But when the two come together, I'm telling you, you get momentum. You get that clarity. You get that direction. You can start to begin that process. And not because everything changed overnight, okay? We're going to remind you that. But because you're doing something. You changed your thoughts. You did this.
And that's the part people miss. You don't need to tear everything down and start over. You just need to take what's already there and point it in a better direction. Don't you think?
Yeah, because, okay, Sophia, you don't need to tear down everything. You need to shift the direction of what's already there. because the same energy, that same effort, and that same time, when applied in the right direction, produces completely different results. That's the power of alignment. Now, that's where we get into thought and action, okay? Let's bring this into something practical, okay, guys? Pay attention. This isn't just theory. This shows up in your every daily decisions. I don't care what it is. Thought determines action. And this is why Troward emphasizes that though the thought is the true starting point, not action, okay? Stay with me. If you wake up thinking, I don't feel like doing this today, your actions will follow that thought. If you wake up thinking, this is not going to work, your effort will reflect that. If you approach your business thinking, I'll try, I don't know how, you'll show up halfway. But if you shift your thinking to, this matters, I'm building something, I'm responsible for this opportunity, I'm going to show up regardless of how I feel. Now your actions begin to align. And when your actions align, consistency becomes possible. And when consistency becomes possible, growth becomes inevitable. Once your thinking is aligned, your actions follow. And once your actions follow, your results begin to change. Now, this is where we're going to kind of get into this identity and this growth, because now we're going deeper, guys, another level, because this isn't about thoughts and actions. Now, it's about identity. The truth is, you don't consistently act out of who you believe you are. You try for a while, you can push for a while, but eventually you fall back into what feels natural. And what feels natural is shaped by identity. So if you see yourself as being inconsistent, you'll eventually act inconsistent. So if you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll expect struggle. If you see yourself as someone who never finishes anything, you'll stop before it even takes off, because you already began to shift to that identity. Everything starts to change. Again, not overnight, but over time, because now you're just trying to act differently. You're becoming something different. Someone who shows up, someone who follows through, someone who takes responsibility. You're someone who builds with intention, and that's when identity shifts. Consistency becomes more natural.
Because at that point, you're not forcing yourself anymore. You're just being who you've become. The discipline isn't a struggle. It's just how you operate now.
Exactly, Sophia, because behavior follows identity. And identity is shaped by what you repeatedly think and believe. Now we're growing this way into a deeper truth, you guys. You're doing this journey. Thank you for being here. And this is where something you really begins to stabilize, okay? Because once your thinking shifts and your actions begin to align and your identity starts to change, you stop feeling like everything is uncertain. You start feeling grounded. The truth is, your freedom isn't based on emotion. It's based on reality. And that should encourage you as a builder, because it means truth is stable. It means growth is not random. It means stewardship actually matters. It means discipline actually compounds. It means the right thinking is not wasted effort. It means your business is not separate from the laws God built for your life.
And that's what makes this so grounding, because it means there's an order to it. It's not chaos. It's not random. If you think right and act right and stay consistent, it actually works, because it was designed to.
If you think with order, you tend to act with order. And if you act with order, you tend to build with order. And if you build with order long enough, you create something strong. And that's why it's so important to anchor to something solid. Because if you don't, you will drift. And drift is expensive in this business, as some of you already know. Because drifting I'm telling you, drifting wastes months, drifting wastes years, drifting wastes potential, drifting wastes money. And that's why mature builders learn to anchor their minds before they try to scale their outcomes. Truth, not feelings, not circumstances, not yesterday's numbers. Truth. The truth is, feelings change, circumstances change, your past doesn't define your future, but truth stays the same. So, what do you anchor to? You anchor to things like, and write this down, I am created with a purpose. I have the ability to grow and build. My thoughts create direction. With God, all things are possible. I am called to steward what I've been given. Discipline matters. Consistency compounds. What I do today matters. And then you repeat it, and you repeat it, and you repeat it. And you think from it daily. You act from that daily, even when it doesn't feel natural yet. Because here's the reality. If you don't anchor your thinking on truth, it will drift back to fear automatically. So this isn't a one-time shift, everybody. It's a daily alignment. And the more you do it, the stronger it becomes. And until eventually, it's not something you're trying to do, it's who you are.
That's when it stops being effort and starts being identity. That's when stewardship isn't something you have to remind yourself of. It's just the way you live and build.
That's when stewardship becomes natural. And that's when business starts compounding. And that's when faith starts showing up as an order in your life. Now, here's the universal truth. And it shows up everywhere. It shows up across time. It shows up across teachings, across generations. The same cry keeps showing up. I want to be free. I want to break the old cycle. I want to live with purpose. I want to be restored. And the truth is, at the center of all that is the same message. You're not stuck. You are not broken beyond repair. You're not disqualified. You are meant to grow. And for us, that ties directly into faith. Because when you understand yourself as a child of God, that changes how you think. And when that changes how you think, that changes how you steward your life. And that changes how you build your business. Because now you're not building from insecurity, you're building from identity. You're not trying to prove your worth, you're trying to faithfully use what God entrusted to you. That is a completely different posture. And it creates a completely different kind of business. One built with responsibility, one built with patience, one built with purpose.
But what does that actually look like in someone's daily life? Like when someone really starts living from that identity, how do they know the change is real and not just another temporary burst of motivation?
Well, Sophia, because you act based on who you believe you are. That's the truth. You don't act based on what you say you want. You act based on what you believe is true about you. So if someone believes, okay, I'm just trying to get by, they play small. If they believe I always struggle, they expect struggle. If they believe I'm inconsistent, they act inconsistent. If they believe I'm a child of God, I'm called to build, I'm responsible for what I've given, I can learn discipline, I can steward this opportunity well. Now, they move differently. They show up with purpose. They take action even when it's hard. They make they stop making these excuses. They start building with intention. Not perfectly, but consistently, because now you're not just chasing results. They're living from identity. And that's what really creates that real change. And that gives you freedom. It's not, okay, guys, it's not about gaining power. It's about becoming free. Free from this old cycle. Free from this old identity. Free from the old agreement with fear. Free from the constant need to be ruled by feelings or be ruled by your past results, or be ruled by your outside pressures that you have.
And why does that freedom matter so much for someone who's trying to build a business? Can't someone just push through without it?
That matters because without freedom, you really can't build well. You can't build a business well. You can't stay busy without freedom. You can't work hard without some freedom. You can't try a lot of things without freedom. Because you can't build something truly meaningful while you're staying internally bound. Because bondage leaks into everything. It'll leak, guys, it'll leak into your schedule. It'll leak into your decisions. It definitely leaks into your consistency. It leaks into your leadership and definitely your stewardship. Truth is, freedom is not optional for serious growth. Okay? Because without your freedom, you'll keep dragging old change into these old chains into new opportunities.
So, how does someone actually know the change has happened? Like, what does it look like when someone has really shifted and it's not just a good week?
That's a great question, because then, see, you make this change and you know it's real because you start to outgrow your old patterns. That's one of the biggest signs. The truth is, when you really change, you don't just fight your old habits the same way. You start to outgrow them. Things that used to feel normal start to feel off. Inconsistency feels off. Excuses feels off. Wasting time feels off. Half-hearted effort feels off. Not stewarding your responsibilities feels off. And not because someone told you, but because your identity has shifted. And this is when alignment happens. You realize something powerful. The limits that you imposed on yourself were never real. They were learned. You accepted. They were repeated. They were practiced. They were believed. But they were never the ultimate truth. And once you begin walking in this truth, those limits start falling off one by one. That's alignment. Alignment with your faith, alignment with your mindset, alignment with your stewardship, alignment with your business, and you start moving in the same direction. You'll no more internal conflict. No more saying one more thing and do another. That's living with intention instead of reaction. So, as we close out of this, hold on to this, okay? This is one source, and you're connected to it. You are not separate from the power you've been looking for. And because of that, you have both the privilege and the responsibility to build. Well, you're not separate from the power you're looking for, and because of that, you have a responsibility to think rightly, live faithfully, steward well, and build intentionally. Thank you for joining us on this journey today here at Above and Beyond Affiliate Marketing Podcast. And don't forget to join us for the next part of this series, where we'll be discussing the perversion of truth and where it works through powers of the subconscious mind and how that directly relates to your business, your mindset, and your growth as an entrepreneur. This is getting deep, guys, and super powerful now. We'll call this phase 2 of the Hidden Power series upcoming, because this is sort of a hidden power working behind the scenes. You will not want to miss it. And if today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you. Be sure to share this episode and leave a comment. Let us know which part stood out most to you, or if you have any questions or comments. we're also excited to announce that our new website has finally launched. It's www.theaboveandbeyondpodcast.com. So please come and visit. And thank you all for your patience. This is still more tweaking to do, but it's here. And if you'd like to be notified when we have used your comments or suggestions, simply send us an email at theaboveandbeyondpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll make sure that you're informed, and make sure to sign up for our newsletter. Trust me, you're going to want to be, for sure. And until next time, this is Above and Beyond Affiliate Marketing with your host, Jason Reiland, and our special guest, Sophia.
Thank you all for being here. This journey is just getting started, and we'll see you in the next one.